Hey everyone, my name is Bilal Mahmood. I'm a neuroscientist, a civil servant, and an entrepreneur. And I'm really excited to talk to you today to share more about our candidacy because I'm running for state assembly because I think San Francisco should be a beacon of hope for the middle class, for those trying to break into the middle class, for immigrants, migrants, parents, and youth, anyone who's searching for a better life. And this is important to me because I'm the child of immigrants. I come from 3 generations of immigrants and refugees. My grandparents were born and raised in Nairobi under the British Empire working on the railroads. My parents were born and raised in Lahore in a dictatorship. My parents were finally able to move here to the Bay Area and be in our democracy over 35 years ago. And when we started here, we had 3 generations in a single bedroom. My mom took public transit every day just to fight for our ability to get into the best public schools, and she eventually became a librarian herself. My parents were able to break into the middle class. And if you distill it down, it was 3 things: housing, schools, and safety that enabled my parents to move up. And those are the 3 facets of the middle class and the priorities of our campaign. It's a priority because that dream of the middle class is disappearing. Housing and schools and safety, they've all gotten worse. Elected officials have promised and promised our people results, but as we know, the outcomes of our city have not gotten better. And that is actually the answer to your first question here today, which is, why don't people vote? People don't turn out because they don't trust our elected leaders. We're tired of people who don't look like us getting elected. We're tired of people saying one thing and not getting results. I've walked the Bayview multiple times over this election and Viz Valley, and I've engaged even before. I served on the Eastern Neighborhood Democratic Club as its board member, did monthly cleanups in the Bayview. And talking to community members, there was 3 things that every resident talked to me about. Why aren't there any affordable grocery stores? Why isn't there enough public transit? And why are our public parks not being kept up? And why are our youth and our elderly being murdered and attacked? Having once heard this in an election, people talk about a grocery store in this election. Have we once heard any politician talk about grocery stores or public parks? I don't think so. And it's because when we engage and encourage people to participate in elections, when we talk about the issues that matter to them, that is how you engage people. And that's why I'm proud to have mobilized hundreds of volunteers in our campaign, half of which have never engaged in politics before, because we are talking about the issues that matter to them. Second, the second way you ensure participation is you get results. Take the homelessness crisis. For decades, politicians have had the opportunity to solve this crisis. For decades, they have spent billions, and we don't have a money problem, we have an ideas problem. What's missing is people with a different background, one with science and technology and policy, elected officials who will listen to the voices of individuals who come from the community, but also use evidence to solve those problems. I've worked as a neuroscientist at Stanford Medical School, a civil servant, and an analyst in the Obama administration, and an entrepreneur in the nonprofit and private sectors, helping small businesses and workers get a guaranteed income to live in our city. So to solve homelessness, we need to combine science and policy and have the courage to act. I remember talking to individuals over this last year who've come out of homelessness. One of them, Scotty, told me that he couldn't get back on track till he had 3 things: shelter, income, and career services. He was waiting for years on a lottery system and kicked around shelters every 30 days. Listening to him and to the community and to scientists and academics, we came up with our own homelessness policy, a Built for Zero plan, which is modeled on programs that have actually eliminated chronic homelessness in 14 US cities. Ones that guarantee shelter and housing not in RVs, ones that use data to identify the needs of every unhoused individual, and it integrates case management teams to help career services or mental health or addiction services as well. This has solved homelessness in other cities. We need to bring it now to San Francisco and California. And that lastly brings us to education. This is near and dear to my heart because I grew up in the public school system. My mom was a librarian, my grandmother was a special ed teacher. We need to turn around by reverting the fundamental way that we get schools back on track is we revert the actions of the school board in San Francisco. Our schools are failing because we keep lowering the bar in education. We have removed algebra from 8th grade. This has created inequities in our schools, and when elected, I will guarantee that algebra and STEM education is accelerated and not regressed in our school system. Second, our schools are failing because they are underfunded. We need tax reform to ensure that we can properly fund schools in our public school system. And frankly, the third thing we have to do is acknowledge the root of the problem. We have a school board that has been using our kids as a stepping stone to higher office and focused on school renaming rather than reopening. We need leaders who will stand up to elected officials when they commit intentional malfeasance from day one. That is why I have supported the school board recall from day one of all 3 school board members on the ballot. I've canvassed for it, I've gotten signatures for it, and it's with that type of courage that I will lead in the assembly. I will represent our people. I will lead from science and community. I will lead with boldness because we've been failed by career politicians for too long. Thank you so much, everyone, and I hope you'll vote for us on February 15th.